लगा कि दिवाली क्या होना चाहिए। देखिए रिकॉर्डिंग भी शुरू हो गई है। सभी का बहुत बहुत स्वागत। ज्यादा स्वागत आकाश सुरेखा का, जिन्होंने दिवाली के बीच में भी हमारा ये निवेदन स्वीकार किया कि हम सबसे बात करें, एजेंटिक एआई के मुद्दे पर हम सबसे बात करें। स्वागत है आकाश।
Good morning, everyone. Hi, Nipun, Divakar, Atul. Thank you for inviting me. Good morning,
सही है, हम
Akash.
लोग ना तीनों मिलके एनडीए बन जाते हैं, निपुण दिवाकर अतुल। तो एबीआई, ऑल भारत आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस एसोसिएशन, इसे लगभग एक साल पूरा होने वाला है। 10.5 महीने हो गए हैं जब से हमने प्रयास शुरू किए कि हम लोग लगातार कुछ ना कुछ पुणे को वापस करें। हम तीनों ही प्रवासी हैं, अतुल, मैं और दिवाकर। हम लोग पंजाब, हरियाणा, उत्तर प्रदेश से आए हैं। मैं रोहतक से हूँ, दिवाकर बनारस से हैं, अतुल अमृतसर से हैं। लेकिन हमें पुणे इतना अच्छा लगा कि हम यहीं तीनों बस गए हैं, और अब हम चाहते हैं कि जितना पुणे ने हमें दिया हम उतना ही पुणे को वापस कर सकें। उसी की शुरुआत की गई, और एबीएआईए का जन्म हुआ उससे। ऑल भारत आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस एसोसिएशन, अतुल मेहरा का ये आइडिया था। मुझे जोड़ा गया उसमें, और फिर दिवाकर ने आके एकदम चार चांद लगा दिए उसमें। तो अतुल के पास चलते हैं, अतुल से सुनते हैं कहानी, क्योंकि हम तीनों में सिर्फ वही हैं जो एआई से रिलेटेड है। दिवाकर और मैं सिर्फ ज्ञान बांट सकते हैं, लेकिन वो एक्चुअल में प्रोडक्ट भी बांट सकते हैं। उनका एक प्रोडक्ट है वायु शॉप के नाम से। आइए उनसे जानते हैं एबीआईए के बारे में और ज्यादा।
तो थैंक यू गाइस। मैं थोड़ा सा आई वांटेड टू ऐड अ ट्विस्ट बिकॉज इट्स अ फेस्टिवल सीजन और थोड़ा दाल में थोड़ा तड़का पॉइंट था. सो मे बी वी कैन प्ले अ स्मॉल गेम which will give you the introduction of AI agents, which Akash is going to talk about in very detail. But then this game opens up, uh, which is the biggest opportunity and what is the role of API, how you can leverage it and so on. तो मैं एक स्क्रीन शेयर करता हूँ. बड़ी सिंपल सी गेम है. ए एजेंट्स, अगर आई टेल इन अ वेरी सिंपलिस्टिक टर्म्स, you can imagine कि it's an assistant for you, which can achieve some task for you. Very simple thing. It can be a personal thing. For example, for me, I'm trying to build my furniture. I'm not getting time. I need someone to guide me the entire process through within my constraints and so on, right? And I'm going to, or in the business, there may be another use case. Uh, Nipun, can you give me the access to share the screen? So guys, सब लोग गेम के लिए रेडी हैं और so it opens up the mind. I know it's people are still in the morning and
और
festive mood.
सभी से निवेदन है, जो इस अवस्था में है, अवस्था बहुत जरूरी है, जिस अवस्था में है कि अपना चेहरा दिखा सकें, वो लोग कैमरा ऑन कर लीजिए। हमने जूम का महंगे वाला पैकेज ले रखा है, तो वीडियो ब्लॉक नहीं होगी।
Just 1 minute. So just start imagining the AI agents, which is a kind of, you can make a wish to it. That's the game actually. Okay. And then uh, you can find out, you can make a wish like what this can achieve for you. Uh, for example, you can say like it can increase my sales. You can say it should help me buy furniture or whatever comes to your mind. So I'll give you 30 seconds. You start thinking. Meanwhile, I'm opening this page. Everybody is already thinking like what AI agents can do for you. Okay. And now, if you can see my screen, I'm putting that in a format that everybody can start thinking. So this is a wish that you make. You can write what my company does, which is like, for example, my company manufactures and sells cars. It may be it's in banking and then it provides loans or whatever you do. And then you start thinking like a CXO, the top rank in your company. What does he care about? Maybe you can write down he wants the business growth, he wants the profits, he wants to expand to new geography. Whatever is the biggest challenge that your CEO, your CBO, your CTO, whichever your line is, your chief product officer, whatever you can think. Okay. And you can start writing in the text box, the chat box. And next comes how AI agents can do it. So AI agents, basically, you can see like these are AI assistants which have some limitations, but then let's assume your CXO can make a wish. Okay, help me increase business growth by selling more cars. So people can start writing in the chat box. Let's wait for 30 seconds and then we go to the next part. So guys, all people have already thought, or how's it? Anomaly detection, okay. Can bring growth in terms of sales, okay. Help in documentation, okay. Okay, so people can just chat in because Akash is going to talk about many things. I wanted to bring the attention to the point where ABI helps you to leverage it and so on. You see, the biggest challenge today about technology is not that it's not going to happen. Everybody knows that AI agents are going to be part of a workforce. In maybe 10 years, we'll have the bipedal robots working in factories alongside walking alongside us, maybe doing food delivery and so on. This is going to happen anyway. But when you ask this question, where do I start? What is that I can do, my company can do? How can I leverage it? It's a very, very complex decision. Like one of our advisors in the All Bharat AI Association, he was saying like in US where people spend a lot of money, they take GPUs, they buy GPUs, they hire a lot of people, even before thinking like what needs to be done, because there's a lot of capital. Then comes the question, okay, what do I do of AI? What should I do with AI agents? How this can help me achieve it? And just to relate it to the recent examples, like for example, in NVIDIA or other events, people went and then it opened up their mind, okay, what a fabulous technology. But then how do I apply in my systems? And even if you do it, whether somebody will pay for it, whether this will make the ROI, return on investment, will it make sense for me or not? So all these questions make it a very, very complex problem to solve, which Akash is again, going to talk about. Now, because your CXO is having this problem and it's a very complex problem to solve, if all of us can solve this problem, definitely it unlocks a lot of growth because not too many people can solve it. And if less people solve it, of course, they unlock growth for themselves, their companies, and all of the people around, like rest of the people, like rest of the consumers, and so on. So that's the part which we'll be discussing with Akash. And Akash, when I talked to him, I was so amazed that people in Pune were having such of audacious goals in AI right from the beginning. He mentioned to me like he was thinking of the LLM like technologies back in 2015, 16, 17. And now most recently he was thinking of more advanced topics like reasoning and so on, which is a very, very fabulous thing. So in all Bharat AI Association, we are bringing all these experts together because only building technology is not sufficient, because there are questions of ROI, there are questions of what CXO wants, how this will be rolled out. There's so many different things. And ABI is a platform that brings everyone together to make this technology, a reality. So I'll pass on the baton at this time to Diwakar, and I'll encourage everyone to keep thinking of AI agents and just write down in the chat box if you can. And then rest of the things we'll cover in the session with Akash.
इससे पहले कि हम लोग सेशन शुरू करें, एक शेर मैं आप सभी के लिए सुना देना चाहता हूं, जो लोग आज सवेरे सवेरे उठ के, दिवाली का समय है फिर भी यहाँ पर आए हैं, कि मंजिल तो मिल ही जाएगी, भटक कर ही सही। अपने लिए तालियां जरूर बजाना, नहीं मतलब ऐसे जो वीडियो में बजा सकते हैं वीडियो में, बाकी यहाँ पे एक रिएक्शन है तालियों का, कि मंजिल तो मिल ही जाएगी, भटक कर ही सही, गुमराह तो वो हैं जो घर से निकले ही नहीं। Divakar.
Dhanyavad, Nipun and Atul. So to allow me to good morning, everyone, and allow me to introduce you to the panelist for today, Mr. Akash Sureka, who was formerly an MD at JP Morgan and is currently a prolific angel investor as well as on the board of advisors at several startups as well as listed companies. Akash, over to you and to introduce yourself and further and share with us your insights on especially on the today's topic on agentic AI.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Divakar, Atul, Nipun. Nipun, as always, love your share of shairi. Thanks for starting with that. Divakar, would you mind if you give me the rights to share my screen so that I can bring a few slides? And then maybe you can, I know you have certain questions in mind. You can open that up, and then we can open up some Q&A for the audience as well.
So, Nipun, you can enable that.
I think if you can try now.
Yeah, I can do that. Thank you so much. Just give me a second. Okay, let me know if you all can see my screen.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, great. Okay, you can see my full screen.
Yes, yes, we can see that.
Okay, all right, great. I think thanks, Divakar, for the introduction. I think we'll save some time, guys. You can look at me on the LinkedIn. But I think most interestingly, I started my AI journey in 2011. By the way, was nominated as top technology pioneer by World Economic Forum. We were building conversation engines for discovery of content and commerce. We were not doing it for the entire web the way ChatGPT did. And we worked with a lot of handset makers and telcos, and eventually we got acquired by Persistent Systems. I also did another startup was into integration automation, which had a AI piece into it. You can think about Zapier plus AI, which they're doing it right now. We did it a long time back. That also we sold it out. And I have a lot of other patents as well around AI. So AI has been, and I also led AI products in unicorns like Icertis. So AI always has been close to my heart. I still have filed kind of new patents around AI. And obviously, world has matured a lot since 2015-16. Interestingly, one of my other friends who was in Microsoft, he was leading search. I come in from some search background from my first startup. So we were looking to actually do transformers in 2016. However, sitting in India sometimes it's difficult to do that kind of research. I hope that changes. It's changing a bit. It will take some more time, but I'm sure in the future it will change more and more. Coming back to today's topic, I thought I'll kind of bring a few slides how the evolution of AI has been happening. Some of you would have been already aware, some of you would be new to this, and what's the future after agentic AI, right? So just let's quickly deep dive because I know Divakar has its own Q&A set, and then we need to open up to all of the audience as well. So here we go. Before that, everybody talks about AI. Everybody wants to look at what's the future of AI. I know there are a lot of audiences, on this Zoom call right now. But why don't you? So this is like pick your cards, and see what does future of AI looks like, right? Is that agentic AI is the future? Is the current? Is the past? Is there something new coming up? Everybody has its own theory. Nobody knows what is going to be. But similar to what Atul has asked you to put down your flavors of agents, why don't you also put up in the chat comments what do you think is the future of AI? Or essentially, what is the future of generative AI? Because generative AI is what has kickstarted and given the inflection point to where we stand today from AI standpoint. But as all of you know, generative AI was the beginning, but a lot of things are still to come. So why don't you go ahead and start thinking and drinking and kind of start putting your comments around it and kind of let us know what you think is the future of AI. However, as you do that, everybody knows Chief AI Scientist of Meta. His prediction is that no one will use LLM in 5 years, right? It's very controversial that way. But the 2025 will be the key year where we'll figure out how much LLMs are being benefiting enterprises at scale, right? However, he thinks that it's going to be outdated in 5 years. Yeah, some people are saying it might be outdated in, in next 2 years, right? So everybody has its own guess. However, understanding the real world, having persistent memory, reasoning, and planning, these are the four key behaviors, where LLMs are going to transform, which they can't do right now. And hence, as you could see, as Atul mentioned, I am myself looking at reasoning. How can you reason, right? Like human beings, really, right? How can you have persistent memory? And here, right now, many times the context windows, all of you who know AI, are small. They're increasing day by day. And that's essential for reasoning and planning. But these are where I think the future is coming along, and however, LMs are not ready for it, and hence, as you could see, and as we'll deep dive, in the next few slides, agents are coming in place, right? And then we'll see how they are helping some of this. But just to recap, a lot of you would have heard, what are the 5 levels of OpenAI which they have imagined, right? Obviously, level one was chatbots, as everybody would have been using. Chatbots were existing even before ChatGPT, by the way. Level two, reasoners, human level problem solving, which is where we kind of in a way stands today, including level three, which is agents. So agents and reasoning is where a lot of work is happening, and LLMs are getting matured to train them to reason. You could have seen that with some of the latest models which has been launched. People are solving complicated maths problems. People are becoming, the LLMs are becoming tutors for education and things like those with a lot of reasoning inbuilt. Agents, where virtual assistants can take actions, including having reasoning inbuilt as part of it, so that even if they're trained for certain activity, but if something changes on the go, how can agents reason about it and then kind of dynamically solve it before, without even going back and retraining them and then deploying them again, right? So how can agents work in that scenario? Level four is innovators, wherein research, how can virtual assistants can do innovation? How can they do their own research? How can they come out with their new ideas, new creativities, and things like those? And can aid in invention. And that's where the research piece also comes in. So essentially, level four says that how can AI do research on their own, which is as good as what humans have been doing for years and years, right? And level five, autonomous organizations, wherein agents were like digital workforce, but level five is like digital organizations which they can function and does everything on their own without requiring people, right? Maybe requiring, like, if you require 100 people today, might require one person tomorrow, right? So which is called as level five, which is completely autonomous organizations, the way you have autonomous vehicles today, right? In a way. Obviously, where we stand today is you got from the reasoning standpoint, the own model which came up, agents, as we go talking about, a lot of startups are existing in different areas. And next 4, 5, 7, and 10 years, somebody is saying people will be able to do level 4 and level 5 in 2 years. Somebody is saying we are away from 5 years. Chief AI scientist of Meta is saying it's we are away. LLMs will not be able to do it. It takes 10 years and things like those, right? So nobody knows what's that 10-year journey is going to be, but it will definitely be in the level 4 and level 5, leveraging level 1, level 2, and level 3. So I think that's the context of this, because then we know why agents are coming along, and what's the need of that. But I think AGI is where the level 4, level 5 will be very strong. And people are talking about AGI as well. But I think for today, let's focus on agents. Future, as I said, we can maybe summarize what you guys are thinking about the future in what time, and we can quickly think about that as well during the end of the call. Where do we stand in terms of level 5 agents? Obviously, look, large language models have been around now from a long time. One of the problem now with LLMs is, I think, whatever data was available in open or on the planet has been utilized to train them. So LLMs are struggling to get more and more data to train, and hence, companies who have been pioneering the LLM space are looking to get into enterprises because there's a lot of data, but it's all behind firewall, right? And hence you get agent frameworks, so that agents can use LLMs, they can use certain tools and softwares which existing in enterprises. You apply reasoning on top of it, and then you get access to the enterprise data in the secured format behind the formula of enterprise, and that helps to kind of get to the next stage. And I think the emerging category is embodied AI, which is also like a humanoid, wherein AI is being infused just not as a software agent in companies and systems, but AI is infused into hardwares, and those hardwares can act like humans, including a lot of human behaviors, empathy, emotions, and things like those, and including action. So that's called as embodied AI. And I think and which is where NVIDIA is also agreeing. In the recent NVIDIA AI summit, Jensen has told that what comes next after agent is going to be industrial AI, which is nothing but kind of an embodied AI or humanoids, as an example, right? But all of this, look, there is a perception, there's an estimation when this could happen. There are some goal settings, plannings, actions as part of all of this, which we kind of quickly look about it, right? So large language models, just to recap, first two levels of Gen AI, going back to my previous slide, conversational reasoning, across all of these categories, action, typically they do text generation, image generation, sound, things like those. From a perception standpoint, what can they understand? Languages, vision, audio, multimodality in terms of images, videos. You feed all of this to LLMs, they can understand, and they can give you summaries, sentiments, edit better version of them, and so on and so forth. So from a human mapping standpoint, they can perceive all of those as inputs, and they can, do certain actions, which is generation and addition and understanding the summaries and things like those, right? State estimation, this is internal representations, which is contextual augmentation. In terms of you can feed some more data, which is where RAG comes in, and you can build more and more context to it, as opposed to the horizontal broad-based large language models. Goal settings, these are prompts, largely. I mean, you give prompts, what do you want to achieve from a goal standpoint, and basis those prompts, you kind of reflect what the outcomes are coming up, you build chain of thoughts, and you achieve your goals, which were, required from those LLMs. Now, what are agents, right? These are basically tasks which can, be performed by software on behalf of human, which is the next step beyond image generation or audio generation or just video generation, right? And there's a software task, right? Imagine somebody on your behalf as a digital assistant going and filing a bug. Somebody on your behalf raising a ticket in Jira, right? Somebody on your behalf updating a project plan. Somebody on your behalf uploading the leads of your sales in the CRM software. Somebody on your behalf going and running a campaign or an email campaign, as an example, right? So what happens is, in the goal setting, these are predefined objectives on which the agents are trained. At the same point of time, agents have inbuilt reasoning capabilities from level 1 and level 2, and they can dynamically adjust based on the current state and environment, right? So for example, on Jira, other than filing a ticket, if they want to be assigned to understand the summaries from different other tickets which are similar to nature, and they may vary and sometimes can just come in real time where they are finding out that information. The agents can actually dynamically adjust themselves and kind of achieve the objective without going back, without stopping, without retraining and things like those, right? They're planned in terms of, again, it's all is dynamic, by the way, nothing is static, so even in planning, they can plan accordingly, achieve those goals. State estimation, again, it's the state of environment based on sensors and memories, and which is where the context windows are becoming bigger and bigger. And bigger the context windows, obviously, higher the reasoning capabilities, higher the dynamism built up with agents, and you can achieve the goals faster, even if there's some incomplete information. Perception, this is all sensory. This is more than just understanding audios and videos of the world or textual information of the world, but this is understanding systems, right? And then processing it, from the current state standpoint, right? So this is how agents differ from LLMs, right? So a very simple example could also be, today when you write a query in ChatGPT, it goes and get the information. But what happens if it's a travel site? You want to book a ticket. you want to plan an itinerary, uh, you know, you want to get your rewards, you want to use some of your rewards. Now, each of these actions is just not information. There is this dynamic states which are building up for those all workflows. And if you want to automate that, which is where agents will come in. So agents you can think about which are breaking down actions and information in pieces. You could have one agent do it. You can have multiple agents do it basis the requirements, and then you achieve that goal, what was intended for those agents or a specific agent, right? That's how agents differ from LLMs, and you could see that evolution, right? From a whole AI evolution from rule-based playbooks. In a lot of softwares, you had rule, and basis those rules, softwares were acting. They were all set by humans. Humans were able to change the rules anytime they want. BPM came in and kind of brought up certain automations in processes. Then low code happened, wherein you can drag and drop, build your softwares. Predictive ML, as we have been using, whether it's regression, random forest, gradients, SVMs, and things like those, ML existed because a lot of data existed. And as people started building ETL layers and analytics layers on top of it, a lot of prediction and prescription started coming up, which is where ML came in, right? RPA came in. RPA is a pre-version of an agent in a way. RPA are defined to work on a specific workflow, but they can't change in between, right? If a workflow changes, they have to go back, tune your RPA agent again, and then you have to execute it, again to fulfill that workflow. Co-pilots, as you could see, you had GitHub co-pilots. Obviously they are also building a lot of reasoning. You have Excel, Microsoft Office co-pilots, and things like those. But they were designed for static information which lies in those softwares, and the co-pilots can act. Combination of bots, combination of certain actions which are defined in those particular softwares and systems. At the same time, LLMs came in, and which is what has been evolved into agents now. And after agent level 4, level 5, you'll get into general purpose AI, which will be fully autonomous organizations and workforce and things like those, right? Which is where the level 5 state comes in. Key components of agents. How do you make sure agents act dynamically? How do you make sure agents can reason on the fly, runtime? And for that, they may not have the data, because we're saying they can't go back and get trained again and then deployed again, right? And hence, the newer versions of, or I would not say newer version, this existed by the way long time back, but they have been now getting leveraged to slightly higher scale versus what they were leveraged in generative AI space, which means is reinforcement learning. As everybody knows, it requires lesser data and data. And as I said, future is less data, for AI, because all the open data, by the way, is been used up, for LLMs so far trained, and there's hardly any data which is left which can be trained now for LLMs, right? And hence even LLMs are going in the reinforcement learning, deep neural networks. They're complicated multiple layered networks talking to each other. Imagine multiple agents framework as opposed to just one agent working on a specific workflow. They all have to collaborate with each other. They have to reason together. They have to act upon accordingly. So these are like, in a way, every neural network coming together and building up a deep neural network, and which is going to lead to a multi-agent system, which I was talking about, right? So these are the key components of agent, which are driving those. Basically, what it means is that these agent frameworks are driving from prompt engineering to flow engineering, right? Because every system, some of the examples I gave you are like flows, right? The way we have been building flow diagrams in the past, and on the flows, you have to then set your goals, you have to plan, some of the things what we discussed in the previous slides, right? So essentially, agents is flow engineering versus a prompt engineering. That's the key difference between LLMs and agents now, right? What do they have to do? Tooling, one of the critical component, which means is they have to integrate with a lot of tools. They have to understand the data in those tools, which could be external systems, could be softwares, could be SaaS and things like those, and then act upon it, right? And hence you could see in a lot of agents today, the softwares which are providing agents, they're pre-integrated with a lot of such tools, basis the specific goals for which those agents are built up. Chain of thought, this is where I think they reflect dynamically how do they solve some of those problems. Is they reflect on the state, in a particular state when they're acting upon it, then they build reasoning on top of it. they reason on top of it and then kind of start taking concrete actions, on top of it, again, without going. And these are some of the things which are getting built up in the LLMs, which are helping agents, to act upon it. So by the way, agents require LLMs on, it's not like agents work in silos. It's all coming together. You have LLMs, as the baseline. Then you have tools, which are this, softwares and integrations which you do. And you have agent frameworks. One of the example is LangGraph. There are Creo.ai. I'll not go into details, but each of them has its own pros and cons. LangGraph especially is my favorite because it has built multiple agent framework into it. These are some of the other ones. AG, you have Creo.ai. Some of them are open source as well. And basis what you want to achieve, you can select appropriately with what makes sense for you. This is a small comparison. You can go through it. I don't want to go to the entire slide. But in LangGraph, you define the state management explicitly. In AG, it kind of, through the conversations, it can understand on its own, and it's implicit. In Q.ai, basis the task, they will decide what's the state to manage, right? As an example. So there are different other sort of comparisons, and it depends upon how complicated and simple your agent implementations are. In fact, I would say how complicated or simple your flows are. And basis that you can decide what kind of framework you want to utilize, right? So no one size fits all like a concept in agent frameworks as well. But you could see potentially this is the landscape of agents today. Okay, so if somebody is thinking, hey, agentic AI is new, no, it's not new now. There are a lot of companies, startups have come into this. RPA companies like UiPath, Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism and things like those, they have kind of, innovated themselves, and they have put in agentic AI as part of their RPAs because it was very natural to them. Bases different sectors, whether it's IT, whether it is search, whether it's legal, whether it's sales, marketing, customer support. You will see agents all the way, by the way. And a lot of companies have taken pole position in each of those categories. So before you do anything, please make sure that you're doing your research appropriately in terms of, or maybe you're applying an agent to do the research appropriately on what kind of agents exist in with what categories, what the state, and you can think about. But the opportunity is massive, by the way. So it's again, no one size fits all. The agentic AI, because it's going to be across enterprises. There's so many flows in enterprises. There could be humongous number of, agents working along. That opportunity is massive, by the way, right? So, where does this lead to, right? And as I was saying, the next wave is sort of embodied AI, which is humanoids or robots, industrial robots, which are not just pre-trained, but agents embedded as part of physical devices, wherein again they have reasoning capabilities, they can dynamically act upon, they don't need to be retrained again, and then a lot more from level 4 will also come up as part of it, and which is where some of the devices, some are premature, some are getting matured and things like those. But these are just few examples, but you'll see more and more coming out as maybe in next 6-12 months people start looking at what's next, right? So I think this is where I think how the future looks like in my mind. I know you would have your own version, and I need to still review what you put in your comments, but I'll look at it. But I think I think the inflection point started with conversational AI. We are standing at agentic AI today, and I think this is as enterprises adopt more and more agents, and maybe at certain point of time as that gets matured, embodied AI will kind of become the reality. Some of the early signs are already there, right, as an example. So thank you so much. I hope this was helpful. But Diwakar, over to you for
So,
any questions.
thanks, Akash, for a very detailed presentation, and especially on the embodied AI that you talked about. So, moving on, some of the questions, I think you answered a few of the questions I already had. So, for the sake of not repeating them, I'll move to the next ones. So, like in our previous webinars or the event that we had, most of the guest speakers, they zeroed in on AI use cases on AI contact centers, call centers, credit decisioning, and IT engineer as top use cases. Do you see AI agents remaining in these workflow or over time be deployed all over the enterprises?
No, it's going to be all over enterprise, by the way. Everywhere, every flow, every software, every tool, every function, right? So it's going to be across. I mean, as good as, a product manager or product associated working on Jira for a product requirement, yeah, agents are going to be there. So as good as you doing rewards for employees, agents is going to be there. So agents is going to be everywhere, by the way. And which is where the multi-agent framework comes up. So think about an enterprise of any size. You would have like thousands of agents working together across those different systems and areas.
So one of the slides that you showed about a varied different AI ecosystem where different categories, workflows, different companies are already there. So in that backdrop, do our AI agents present an opportunity to build global AI companies, especially out of India? And where do starters or professionals stand a chance if they have to go about building such solution?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, I have no doubt about it. I mean, think about it. Lot of the use cases which we spoke about, and a lot of things which happen in enterprise, a lot of work is actually getting done by people in India. So people in India have a very, very thorough understanding about how those functions work, what are the flows, what are those tools, what are those systems.
Mhm.
So I think the understanding of all those areas, and obviously including the upside on the AI talent and the knowledge what we're building up. I think we have that massive knowledge base, not only about AI, but all about tools, softwares, what are the flows, what are the actions, and things like those. So I think for people to build agents from India and make it global, because those tools are global in nature, right? So if Slack is used in India and Slack is used in US, it's same. If Jira is used in India or Jira is used in US, it's the same, right? So yeah, I mean, people in India can build a lot of those agents, and they will be global companies for sure, because all of those companies across the globe are requiring, and they're same. So, but we have that massive knowledge about all of them. So.
Great. And so in terms of that, will ITS, how will that transform the traditional IT and ITS industries in India? Like what will be the major disruption in that direction?
Yeah. So look, one of the key innovation, and look, a lot of people have different opinions. So this is my opinion on the disruption side, right? Lot of innovation and lot of investment is happening to make software programming autonomous, right? I mean, there's one company, has got $500 million just to do research and come out something, and they're still in stealth, by the way. Okay? And I see a disruption in the application development space,
Mhm.
and which is where some part of IT will get disrupted.
Right.
But I think a lot of mature IT companies are smart enough to understand that risk, and they have building. By the way, Accenture announced that they're going to build hundreds of agents,
Mhm.
right? They're retraining a lot of their people on AI to do that agentic work. So IT companies have figured out how to use AI to their advantage and de-risk application development, and which is where you'll see a lot of accelerator solution services from IT companies in the agentic space, because they know. I mean, look at good IT companies. They have understanding of all the systems. I mean, they do $100 million project earlier with an enterprise. They were essentially managing all the systems for them, right? In a way, other than
Right.
the application development part. So they are reskilling, they're rebuilding, they're building agents. They know in and out of the systems. So they'll readjust, right? One of the only risk I feel is that the scale of people which was required earlier will get reduced, right? Which is where the disruption will happen, right? So earlier, if an IT company were using 100 people to do that work, it might be a requirement of 20 people. So my belief is, yes, I mean, NVIDIA, Jensen says that AI is not going to take the job, but people who's using AI is going to take the job. The answer is yes, what he says, right? But would there be reduction in jobs? I think nobody's answering that. My belief is that absolutely yes, there will be reduction in jobs, right? People will get reskilled. People who using AI will take up the job of other people who are not using AI. But very, very importantly, there will be reduction in jobs, because people who are using AI and who have AI talent will not require 100 people the way they were requiring earlier. They will require people who use AI, who knows AI, 10x lesser, 50x lesser, 100x lesser than what was required, right?
So
So I
that
think
will kind of
everybody
change
needs,
the traditional global delivery model that IT companies used to talk about, where
it
there
will,
will be like
it,
100 people in India for every 10 people in the US.
it
So
will.
that ratio will get definitely changed with that.
That ratio will absolutely come under pressure unless some new innovations, unless the scale of work increases. The other thing can be, I would say in the benefit is that because now you can do much more, right? So one is the scale of people will reduce,
Mhm.
but you can do at the same point of time much more work.
Right.
And you can do variety of work, right?
True.
So if that scales up phenomenally well, then the risk of reduction of people may get counter adjusted with the scale of the work, right? That's the key. But nobody knows about that ratio, by the way, right? So
Right, right.
I think in an overall broader framework, even if the scale of work improves, but because of the nature of autonomous way of agents, which can do 24 hours by 7 and can do at scale, the reduction in jobs will still happen net, right? Now, whether that will be 10%, 20%, 50%, 70%, it has to be seen as we go forward.
Sure. And coming from the to the investments, how do investors can benefit from this change in the with the growth of AI agents? Like, what are the since you have investor yourself, so what are the typical things that you look for an AI startup who's building an agentic AI solution?
Yeah, look, I think that's interesting. A lot of investors, US has taken the lead, have been investing in a lot of agents, sales and customer service and ITSM. These are the three primary categories where a lot of investments have gone in, right? Rest, legal, HR, finance are below relatively from the investment scale of sales, ITSM, customer service, and things like those, and marketing, right? And that money will flow in because the scale of that is very large. And enterprises have huge spends in those areas. So a lot of agentic investments in a way are happening in those areas and will continue to happen. I think one of the only challenge will be, obviously market is huge, but if there are many companies doing same job, then obviously it will be hyper crowded. And you could see from the last map, it's already becoming hyper crowded, right?
Right, right.
So investors right now are very exciting. They're very excited about agentic AI. I don't know whether that same passion to invest in agents sometime next year, maybe H2 of next year will remain or not. Because by that time, there will be a lot of companies coming up. A lot of incumbents will have that advantage. A lot of IT companies are building agents. I mean, look,
Right.
if Infosys and Accentures and, those companies are building agents at scale, that hampers, a lot of other startups, right? But I think it's a massive opportunity. That's to the advantage, and I think it's just about speed. Who takes the lever, and is working at the speed which is required. It will become hyper crowded next year for sure. So only early movers and initial movers will get an advantage.
Interestingly, one of the questions with an audience, I was going to come to that, but I will ask is, one question I think from Amit Gujar was, can I patent my agent? And the future, what when like if 2 to 4 hours or daily tasks are to be done by the agent, can someone patent it?
Yeah, look, I think yes and no depends upon what you want to patent, right? So in India, obviously the patent rules have changed.
Mhm.
You can't patent a business idea, it has to be a method, system, and things like those. So if your agent, if you're defining an agent to automate a sales process, no, you can't patent it because process is known, functions are known, you and look, when human clicks on a software,
Mhm.
that essentially is software. Now, whether that is clicked by a human or an agent which is built up, it really doesn't matter, right? So, in that case, you can't patent per se, right? But if you have a very inventive agent which is doing things which does not exist in terms of flows, in terms of how the agents communicate, interact, how do they reason, maybe things like those, how do they collaborate with other agents? Those are some of the areas where you can patent. But if an agent is wanting to automate a flow, then no. Answer is no.
Okay. Okay. And my final question before I open the question to the audience, one is, so given this background, what will be your advice to founders or the entrepreneurs within the larger organizations on if they have to build up, how to make the most of the opportunity out of this agentic AI?
Build as much as you can at the fastest speed. As simple as that.
Yeah, clear and straightforward. I cannot agree further than that. So, okay, now I'm opening the for the audience. I'll actually
And
take the questions.
Akash,
Atul, you can
can
start
I
with
ask?
yours.
Yes. So one question, Akash. So the point about the crowded market. I saw some of the people from my earlier company also joined, and you also worked in the large banks and companies. We see technologies take 5, 7, 10 years even to get into the enterprises. Like cloud, I talk to people, they say like we haven't even gone to cloud. Like it has been there for so long. So as Jan Lekan also says, the innovation is the easy part, but the distribution has a very long chain. I mean, people can build a model, but then taking it to enterprises, it's completely different. And now if I take it to the ground reality, when I talk to CEOs or CXOs, the first question comes, okay, you have cool agents, you have so many things, but where do I apply it? Where do I start? What is the ROI? And that space is completely non-crowded. I mean, there are very, very few people. The reason is US is, even in the US, like very small, tiny people have put a lot of money, capital into innovation, but then the long distribution chain, even at the start, it's very, very hard. So what's your take? Like, is that the opportunity for Indian startups, Indian founders, Indian professionals to get in?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, in any enterprise, there is this technology curve adoption. There are early adopters, there are laggards, there are so on and so forth, right? And there is a huge change management which goes through an enterprise, right? So that always stays. I think the beautiful part of agents, is that the agents are self-learning. They're autonomous in nature versus cloud, right? From a cloud perspective, if we have to if you have to do one application with a specific services in mind and you have to do additional 10 services, then you have to go and stitch those 10 services again and then kind of come back, right? So hence the adoption, is higher, right? As an example. And there was an alternative to cloud, which is a private cloud data centers and people were running around it, right? It was all about how can I reduce my cost? How can I improve my scalability and things like those, right? But there were some companies who were okay with what they had. So what I'm saying is in cloud, there was alternatives in place, right? In agent scenario, there are no alternatives in place, which are autonomous nature, who can go integrate tools, finish the job and things like those, right? So that's one of the key difference between cloud and agents where people compare about it. But yes, from an enterprise standpoint, it will take time. So I think the best way to look out it is you have to see, which is always the case. You have to put business first, right? And then agents next. You have to see, okay, if this helps reduce the job from 1 month to 1 day, is an example. Whether this helps to sell faster, right? Which was taking 1 month, can you sell in now 3 hours, as an example? Can this help me launch faster? Can this help reduce my cost by 10x? And things like those, right? Can this help avoid dependency on people, because people hiring, training, then getting to job is going to take a lot of time. So can agents come in and solve that problem immediately? So you have to think business first, and problems first, which is first principle thinking. And if you can do that, then apply agents to it. Then the change managements are faster, the adoptions are faster, and things like those, right? And that's how you'll have to look at it. You just can't think about, I think this is good and I want to automate this, I'll automate it and I'll go. No, I don't. You'll have to go with the other approach, right?
Just on a lighter note, especially in India, लोग BMW के बाद भी पूछते हैं माइलेज कितना देगा. So we are very, very ROI focused and so on, which I see is a huge opportunity for India because we have skills. We don't have that much capital as US, but then we have skills, and then we can make the things happen with limited constraints, limited resources, ROI focused use cases, which US for now probably they're not as focused as they're focused on innovation and big ideas.
Yeah, and I think it's changing. A lot of companies in India are trying to innovate faster and faster, but yeah, I think the pace is not there where US and China is. So.
Okay, so the next question is from Rujuta. She's asking, isn't there a technology risk that since most companies are using the same technology, and there is also a cybersecurity risk? What's your view on that?
Yeah, so I didn't get the first part of it. What do you mean by technology risk?
Rujita, can you unmute yourself and ask?
Sure. Hi, Akash.
Hi,
Thank you
Ruchita.
for a good session. So my question is, So you would have come across this, right? Fed usually puts up this third-party vendor risk, right? If everybody is using the same technology, right, then the companies are prone to similar set of risks. So it becomes a systemic issue, or it
Sure.
could become a systemic issue,
Yeah.
right? And also, I mean, there are jailbreaking and similar other issues in agents. So I know there are guardrails, etc., but how does one handle it, and what are your thoughts on this issue?
Yeah, I think that risk exists, but that risk existed earlier as well, right? I mean, look at HubSpot as an example. The CRM software, which is widely used with a lot of SMBs, right? As an example. Now, so in the similar analogy, that was also a systemic risk in a way because a lot of companies are using HubSpot. What happens if HubSpot goes wrong? All those other SMBs are at risk, right? As an example. So I think
Right.
with any software, that systemic risk exists. And I think we'll have to solve the problem similarly the way it has been solved earlier in the past, maybe to a slightly higher scale and precision. That's the only difference. And I think the vendors who are providing agents, obviously they will, have to make sure that their offering is world class. And when we say world class, it's the most secure. It is not breaking the data privacy rules, and it is thoroughly tested for a lot of AI-based cyber attacks, by the way, as opposed to just the regular way of testing the cyber. So they have to, in a way, certify. And then similarly, the onus also lies on the customers as well, where they will have to up their game in the security anyway, right? And because AI itself poses a lot of cyber security risk, and
Correct, correct.
you could see a lot of companies, Palo Alto and Wizzes of the world, and things like those. Companies like those are already providing a lot of matured softwares which help them to de-risk. Generally speaking, in adopting AI, right? So, I think long story short, I think the same risk existed earlier. It also exists today. The precision and scale will change. And I think both sides, vendors as well as customers, have to make sure that they have those things built up, right? If they don't have it, then, it's a problem on either side. So,
Okay, thank you very much. Thank
yeah,
you.
thanks.
I think Akshay, you had a question. You can ask Akash. You're muted.
Akshay, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, Akshay,
Am I
go ahead,
audible?
go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes. So I'm working on combining XR and AI together. Okay. Extended reality technology and
Okay.
AI together. So as we are speaking about AI agents quite a lot, right? It will require a certain medium. For example, banking. It can be totally virtual bank with smart AI agents. Just want to understand how do you see these two technologies coming together in next 5, 10 years? We can just speculate, but your insights over that.
Yeah, no, it's slightly a broader question, but look, mixed reality, extended reality, I've been giving talks on that from last 10 years, similar to AI, by the way. So definitely, I think extended reality is going to be becoming sooner or later, real. A lot of companies are already working on that. I think the biggest challenge has been on the form factor sizes, and some of the latest announcements from Meta and all. Apple is working and they're trying to reduce the form factor as much as possible, much more usable. And this will be all, how do you understand audio? How do you become more intelligent? How do you grab the images? How do you act? So a lot of this will come together, right? How those devices talk to you, and things like those. So for that, LLMs will be utilized, agents will be utilized in terms of software nature. Embodied AI, which I talked about, they all be going to be as part of those hardwares or different form factors, as part of extended reality. So yeah, I said it's a broader question, but it's real. It's going to come very soon and it's going to hit hard. Next 4, 5, 6 years. I think the first usage will be more industrial in nature. I think that's the key difference as opposed to consumer centricity of it. And I think as they become more and more smaller and usable, consumer traction will build up on top of it. But otherwise, industrial adoption will be much more faster for those kind of devices at the first go.
Great.
Thank you.
So thanks everyone. That was a wonderful session. There is plenty of opportunities as Akash outlined, but the key lies in when build something, build fast, stay ahead of the pace of innovation, and keep innovating because the market, as Akash said, is getting increasingly crowded. So those who build fast, roll out their solutions will certainly benefit fast better. So with that, I invite Saurabh, I think, has a question. Saurabh, go ahead, please.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
Am I audible? Okay. Very nice to see you, Akash. We recently met, had some very good, engaging conversation. It was a great learning experience. Well, my question here is, like CRM is sort of a solution that has been in the industry for decades now, and of course we are working. We have a multi-agent setup, and that's how we are trying to evolve ourselves. What are your thoughts on on a good monetization model or a good let's say business model as far as introduction of agentic AIs are concerned, from two perspectives? One, considering the market segment is a small and SMB, small mid-sized business, and two, if we are talking to large enterprise, as a startup, how should we look at this problem statement?
Yeah, thanks for, I think, thanks for bringing that question. I forgot to mention that. So look, a lot of people are saying SaaS is dead, right? As an example, I believe SaaS is not dead. The monetization of SaaS is dead, the way it was happening earlier, because agents are still software and they're providing you service. It's still software as a service. I don't know why people are saying SaaS is dead. SaaS is software as a service. It's not a business as a service, right? So software as a service exists. Agents will become the new softwares, automated softwares, and they will provide you service. Somebody says it's a service as a software, but service as software is a business model. So coming that first software as service, and I was setting that context because software as a service earlier used to provide per seat, per user, those kind of models, other than players like AWS, which were service-based models, right? In a way, like how much transaction-based model, how much service you use, you pay for that. But otherwise, largely it was all per user, per seat based. That's going to change in terms of agents, right? So agents, it's still software as a service, but the business model will change. And people are saying and asking that, it will be dependent on outcomes, right? So because agents is all about goal setting and achieving those outcomes. And what do they behind? And if you're not able to do it, then people don't want to invest into it. It's like CapEx versus OpEx, right? You don't want to invest into it unless you see the outcome in this kind of particular scenario. So people don't want to build up that cost, to make, because if the goals are not achieved from those agents, as agents are supposed to drive, then the money is going on waste, right? So it's going to be outcome based, and for different functions it's going to be different. And you could say, if my agent is sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Somebody can go on mute.
So,
Maybe somebody can mute Niket.
hold on. Okay, Sarang, you have a question?
इससे पहले कि
So
सारंग
sorry.
question
So yes,
पूछे,
Saurabh. Yeah, let me finish. So Saurabh, I think you'll have to look out for example, in sales example, you'll have to see if you can generate 100 more leads with an agent, then you can charge for those per lead generation, to that particular company, as an example. And things like this. So you have to figure out what are those outcomes your agents are driving, and then you have to charge outcome based. That's the difference between SaaS version 1 and SaaS version 2, which exists today. I hope that helps.
ठीक है। इससे पहले कि हम सारंग का सवाल लें, 12 बजने ही वाले हैं, लोग जाना शुरू करें, उससे पहले एक निवेदन है कि सब लोग अगर कैमरा जो अवस्था ठीक अवस्था में सिर्फ वही अपना अपना कैमरा ऑन कर लीजिए। हम एक फोटो ले लेते हैं मुस्कुराती हुई। हालांकि हमने आज का सेशन 12:30 तक रखा है, बट यस, एक फोटो ले लेते हैं, उसके बाद कंटिन्यू करते हैं। कैमरास प्लीज ऑन कर लीजिए। हस्ती, निकेत, अमित, प्रकाश वर्मा, आशीष केसरकर, लौकिक पाटिल, विनोद भाकरे, सचिन बंसल, गौरव आनंद, शिवा रेड। आप रेडी लिखना चाहते थे शायद, पर वो रेडी ही रह गया। और 2-4 कैमरा और ऑन हो जाए, एक बढ़िया सी फोटो लेंगे। पार्थ भाई, तुम बहुत अंधेरे में हो, तुम्हारे पीछे रोशनी ज्यादा है, तो थोड़ा कैमरा का एंगल घुमा लो। शिवा, रेड की स्क्रीन ग्रीन आ रही है, रेड आनी चाहिए नाम के हिसाब से। निकेत, सौरभ, रुजू, कोई बात नहीं महेश्वरी, समझ गए आप ट्रैवल कर रहे हैं, फिर भी आप जुड़े उसके लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। चलिए स्माइल करते हैं, एक बढ़िया सा फोटो ले लेते हैं, एक दो। एक और लेने दीजिए, जूम पे सही है ना, कुछ फोटो का चक्कर यहीं से प्रिंट स्क्रीन करना है। चलिए सौरभ, सारंग का सवाल लेते हैं, स्वागत है सारंग।
Hi Akash.
Hi.
Brilliant presentation and some amazing pointers. The question might be a little technical. What we are trying to look at is how do you, solve a puzzle for calling flows within a flow. Somewhere where you're talking about, the agentic, the nested agentic framework, right? Where you have to look at flow within a flow. Any best practice, because we have seen there are a lot of hallucination that is happening when we are trying to do some of the things. We're building something around the manufacturing shop floor, by the way. We are building an intelligence around human and machine convergence. So there's a lot of exciting space and data that we are looking at, so when we start going deeper, it is it's something which is maybe a flow within a flow kind of scenarios comes up, and that kind of holds the speed. So can you just share some light on that?
Yeah, I think first of all, for that you need to make sure that you're using the multi-agent framework, right? If you're using a framework that does not support multi-agent, uh, that will cause an issue. Second, you'll have to use a framework which is uh, understanding states, and that has an implicit way of understanding those states. Versus, as example, LangGraph has a problem that it was explicit in nature from the state assumption standpoint. And I think third, your reinforcement learning has to be very, very strong. I think you have to make sure that these three things are, now whether you call it as nested, I would just call it as a multi-agent versus nested. Wherein one agent is performing for other agent, but essentially on the top of it, it's a multi-agent framework. So I think if you can take care of these three things, if your reinforcement learning is strong, then your hallucinations will go low. Your initial training, by the way, before reinforcement learning has to be very strong as well at the same point of time, which means is the data which you provided earlier has to be very strong and clean and very contextual. And I think one of the last thing is your context window has to be bigger and bigger, which is where the memory for those agents has to be bigger and bigger. I think these are 3 or 4 areas, short answer, which will help you to achieve the nested nature of the outcome what you're talking about. If any of those 4 pillars are not strong, your outcomes will be very weak.
Okay, sure.
And all of those has to be strong at the same point of time, by the way. It's not one versus other.
Right.
Okay, so I
Thank
think
you so much. Thank you so much.
Rujita has another question on if you can elaborate on the difference between embodied AI and embedded AI.
Yeah, so Rujita, I think the embedded AI is the software agents, right? So agents are, embedded in the software systems, right? And that's embedded
Right.
AI, right?
Right.
Embodied AI is like, you can think about a physical structure, device, form factor, and you have
Okay.
now put AI inside it, right? So it's the same thing. So I mean, it's
Something like
two different things. Sorry, not the same thing.
Neuralink or Ray-Ban goggles, which Meta has come
Yeah,
up
that's
with.
embodied AI. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure you meant it that way. Thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. If there is no other question, then over to Nipun for concluding remarks. Or actually, okay. So yes, so I think thanks, Akash.
I'll like to now add like the post-event actions. So guys, the differentiator of ABI is like we don't stop at information. The reason is, you see, information, the cost has reduced drastically over last 20 years or so. I can give an example so it sticks to your mind. when the automotive industry started in India, all those people who started in 1920, 1930, they were very well connected people. They were the people who were traveling abroad, connected with Mahatma Gandhi and so on. But today, that's not the case. Anybody can, find out the information. And it goes back to your exercise of you wrote the ideas in the beginning. That means people can write down the ideas in 30 seconds, right? I'm highlighting because everybody can think of ideas in 1 minute. Everybody can gain information, has access to Akash wherever you're sitting in 45 minutes, 1 hour. But then comes the real part. Whether you persist, whether you build the things or so not. And once you build it, then how do you take it to the clients? How do you take it to the masses who don't even care about AI? They don't care what AI is. So that's the hardest part. So from that 1 minute idea and vision that you wrote, leverage ABI. There are people from sales, from marketing, from other stuff. Leverage ABI to build businesses, leverage businesses, leverage AI agents to take it to a level where it helps your businesses, your CXOs and so on. So long story short is, ideas, information is easily available, but the ABI differentiator is like, how do we collaborate after the event? So many, great things Akash has told, but then how do we take it to action? How do we take it to the market? That's the harder part. And all of us should take action after the call, within the group.
Certainly. So thanks everyone for joining. Thanks Akash for the wonderful presentation and the insights shared. And please feel to reach out to Akash or Atul, myself, or Nipul if you have any questions. And look forward to meeting you all in the next session. And meanwhile, wish you all a very happy and wonderful Diwali week, starting with Dhanteras today. So thank you all, and look forward to seeing you in future.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Happy Dhanteras.
Happy
Bye.
Diwali.
Happy Diwali.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Happy Diwali, everyone. Bye.